So if I'm part snake and part panther, do I hiss or growl?
Hi, I'm Dave, and this is Dave's Weird Project. In this episode, I start the process of painting some miniatures that are almost as old as I am. They were given to me as a gift, and I really hope I do them justice. Let's take a look. I knew next to nothing about Elfquest when I started this project. I knew my dad liked it, and had for some time. I knew it came out in the late 70s, I think, and that it was just kind of a fantasy hack and slash sorcery adventure story. And as I understand it, it's still being published. These miniatures were from the early mid 80s. I think 83 was on the bottom of the box and the miniatures that I started painting. They were put out by Raoul Partha as a supplement to the Elfquest role-playing game that came out around the same time. So my folks were cleaning up, they're getting ready to downsize their place, and my dad gave me these miniatures. He said, "Here, do you want these?" Because he knew I enjoyed painting miniatures, and I said, "Sure." So I decided to start with this big snaky looking guy. He's snake with a cat face and some claws. So I can only assume that he's a snake claw cat. After a little bit of research, I discovered his name is Madcoil. It's on the back of the box, and I looked up in sort of Elfquest lore. He's a monster that killed somebody's parents before the comic started, and is generally not a good creature. He was born out of some kind of conflict. Elfquest fans, please don't murder me. The next guy I'm holding up here is Olbar Tallmountain. He's some kind of tribal leader, and I'm going to be painting him in the next video where I work on Elfquest guys. I did a zenithal highlight on Madcoil here. That's where you first spray paint black, or prime black, and then only from above you spray or prime white. This creates natural shadows and highlighting. Makes it easier for you to achieve that just by layering color on top. Then working from some reference art, I painted his scales this kind of dark blue color, which I got from mixing a regular blue and a regular purple. For his arms and belly flesh, I did red with purple to get this kind of, I don't know, magenta maybe. And then for his back flesh, I went with a green, all from the reference art. I'm using a glazing medium mixed in with the paint. This makes it more translucent so that the natural highlights I talked about during priming show through more. I also tried to do some layered blending at the junction where the soft magenta looking flesh meets up with the green flesh on the back, but there really wasn't a lot of room to work, so I kind of gave up on that after just a few passes. Madcoil's claws, teeth, and eyes are all yellow in the reference art, which I thought was great, but yellow can be pretty hard to work with. It takes a while to layer up and reach good color, so I started by painting these areas brown to give the yellow a better base to work from. Once that was dry, I started actually putting the yellow on. It still took several coats to reach a nice vibrant color, but I think the brown was worth it. And of course, like all good monsters, he has a big pink fleshy tongue to lick you with. So now I've got all the base colors on, and I'm actually really pleased with how it's coming together. I also did a little bit of dry brushing on the scales with green. In the reference art, they had a green tinge at the end of the scales, and I thought that was really cool. So I just dry brushed to see how it would come out, and I really liked it. Once that's all dry, we're going to do a black wash over the whole thing to bring up the shadows a little bit in the recesses. Also, you might notice that the camera angle is a little different here and a little bit distorted. It's because I'm using a new little rig for my phone that I'm going to show you how I made in episode 6. And I don't know how happy I am with it, but we'll see. So then I just apply the wash pretty liberally with a big brush. If it pulls up too much, you wipe the brush off and use it to suck up the pooling. Pretty simple. And here's Madcoil with the wash all dried up. You can see how that added shadows and deepened the texture all over. Washes can't fix everything, but they can certainly fix some things. Now that the entire model is extra dark, like that chocolate I like, it's worth taking the time to start bringing those base colors back up a little bit. And I find One good way to do this is to do some dry brushing with the original base color. You can see I'm doing that here with the purpley magenta color on the softer flesh of the arms and the belly. For some other colors, you might need a stronger application to get your tone back where you want it. These yellows on the claws and teeth, for example, I went with not a dry brush, but really more of just a recoating to try to get back that vibrancy that really made them stand out, look dangerous, scratchy, ouchy, dangerous. For the last little detail, just the eyes, I took that same darkish blue color from the scales and used it to make slit pupils. That kind of, it works for both a cat and a snake. It's unsettling. You'd freak out if you saw it coming out of a cave on a giant monster. Apart from the other parts of it being a giant monster. The eyes, you know what I mean? Here's some still shots with a macro lens, trying to zoom in a little bit on some of the details. I know he's not Golden Demon quality, but I like him. I think my favorite bit is the green edging on the scales. It just came out really way better than I was expecting it to, at least in my eyes. This is a shot to highlight the scales even more. I love the contrast between the blue and the green. I know those aren't traditionally contrasting colors, but I just feel like they really pop here. Give him kind of an otherworldly look. I think the claws came out better than the teeth. I had some difficulty working around the pose here. The right arm is very close to the belly, so it was hard to get underneath and get that claw. But overall, I think it worked pretty well. This is trying to highlight some of the belly flesh and the neck flesh. That there's some really neat detail with the musculature, especially around the neck, and I don't feel like I really did it justice. The wash helped somewhat, but I maybe could have done better. I'm pretty pleased with how Madcoil turned out. I didn't do anything with his base because I'm hoping to take him, Olbar, who I'm going to paint in a future episode, and maybe a couple others, and turn him into a diorama. So hopefully I'll have that to share with you in the future. Before I get to the lessons learned, I'll do all the standard pleading. Please, if you enjoyed this, hit the like button, maybe consider the subscribe and share buttons. If you want to support the channel, there are some links down below, one to my book, maybe some also to some things on Amazon. If you buy them, I get a little kickback, should be no extra cost to you. And I would just really appreciate your support. But most importantly, like and subscribe. That's the best thing, and I so appreciate it. Okay, lessons learned. I do these projects as much to learn something as to make something, so I like to have a lessons learned section at the end of every video where I make stuff. On the crafting side, I learned that metal miniatures are pretty heavy. I painted them a long time ago, but I wasn't using a painting handle back then, just kind of holding them by the base. So when I put Madcoil on the empty prescription bottle, he was really top heavy, and a couple times he fell over and skinned his nose. Poor guy. I added some rocks to the bottle after that, and it helped a lot. I think I might want it a little bit heavier on the bottom, so I might pick up some fishing weights. They're really cheap at your local, just kind of camping store or whatever, any place that they sell fishing gear. Regarding painting, I learned that less can often be more. I had this idea of having a nice smooth gradient where the sort of neck, the magenta neck flesh met the green back flesh, but there just wasn't enough room to work with, at least not at my skill level. I'm going to try again on something bigger and maybe work my way down. I was really pleased with using a different highlight color, very different highlight color, on those dark blue scales, specifically that bright green. Normally when you do highlighting like that at the edge of something, you use just kind of a lighter version of the same color. So switching to bright green was kind of scary, but you've got to do scary stuff sometimes to get interesting results. On the video side, where to begin? Scott the Miniature Maniac. Terry, link that. Anyway, Scott talks about how difficult it is to get a good setup for painting minis, and boy is he right. In the first set of videos, the camera was to my left, roughly even vertically with the Mini, and I think the quality was okay, but it was really hard to check and make sure I was still having the Mini in frame. The situation with the monitor remains unresolved. In the second half of the painting videos, I switched to a homemade kind of mount rig thing. I'm going to show you that in the next episode, how I made it. And it was a lot easier to monitor the painting, but the quality really suffered in the end. I've got another solution that you're going to see in a couple of episodes when I paint Olbar that is better. It's getting there. We'll see. I also discovered a major goof I made in the first 5 episodes I recorded, where I had my microphone backwards. So I sounded like I was inside an air duct chasing Bruce Willis. I've got it turned around now, and so hopefully you've noticed an improvement in the audio quality. And I've also learned a few more tricks in Audacity, what I use to process the audio, to try to help keep the volume more consistent so that it doesn't get super loud in some parts and super quiet in other parts. We'll see how it goes. To be clear, I'm not going for perfect. I'm just trying to get it so that watching these videos doesn't, hurt you. It's a little rough around the edges. You might notice I've got this whole weird backdrop thing going on. Because I made I'm going to click a thing here. Because I made a green screen. And that's because some viewers thought the original background, which is still behind me, the green screen's just in front of it, it's a cabinet with some curios and knickknacks and things in it. It was a little distracting, and I think they might have been right. So got this cool. This is what you're seeing here is over here is my actual work area. I took a picture of it so you can see my lamp and some of my camera stuff and my hot glue gun favorite. There it is. It's all backwards. My hot glue gun. Love that thing. Anyway, this got goofy. Okay, enough of that. If you're interested in learning more about painting miniatures, there are a lot of really talented people making great videos out there. Terry's going to put some links down below. Also, there's going to be a link to the Elfquest website. There are apparently a bunch of the older issues online available to read for free, so I'm looking forward to diving into that. Let me know what you thought in the comments, especially if you're triggered by my lack of Elfquest knowledge. And if you're familiar with these sets and there's a particular mini you want me to see paint up, let me know there too. I'd be happy to do that. Till next time, take care everybody.